So let's start off with a product which isn't exactly going to shock anyone. I'm going to be using BB cream, and this time I'm going to be using a brush, but like you probably know already, you can use your fingers as well if that's what you prefer. And I'm going to apply that all over the skin and then blend it in. And after I've really buffed that into the skin and making sure to get places like around the eyes and blend that into your neckline as well, don't just stop at the jaw, otherwise it's going to look very odd. I'm going to take my hands and I'm just going to press it onto the skin to get it to look a little more natural and light and not so heavy. After that, I'm going to move on to the brows. The first thing I'm going to do is just brush through them to make sure that I've got the basic shape right and that I'm not going to be filling them in the wrong way. And then after that, I'm going to take a small art brush. You can use an angled eyeliner. You can also use art brushes. Art brushes are actually really good for doing that because you can really get a nice clean little line, which can be quite hard to find with makeup brushes because they tend to make them quite big. And if you want something very small and detailed for filling in all those tiny areas, art brushes are actually really good. So I'm going to be using one of those, and then after that I'll be moving on to bronzer. I'm going to take a small dab of it. Now if you accidentally use a little bit too much like what I did here, there's two things you can do. You can either just take the brush that you're using now and buff it out like crazy, or you can take the foundation brush that you used previously and then run over that just to blank it out a little bit and bring it down back to your natural skin tone without it looking too intense. After that, I'm going to be using a pink blusher, and you just want to kind of purse your lips together and pretend like you're smiling so that you can really tell where the apples of your cheek are. I'm going to be applying the main colour there, but then bringing up whatever's left on the brush further up towards the sides of the face and blending it out into the rest of the foundation. Moving on to the eyes, I'm going to start off with a primer, and I'm going to be using a Milani pencil primer and applying that all over the lid and then blending it out with my finger. Once I've done that, I'm going to move on to a light brown eyeshadow. We're going to be using a few different browns, but we're going to start off with a light brown eyeshadow and apply that all over the lid and blend it out. Once I've applied that light brown all over the lid and blended it out, I'm going to move in with a dark brown, but we're going to start on the outer corner of the eye, placing that in the crease and then blending it outwards. While you're blending out the dark eyeshadow, try and bring it up towards the very edge of the tip of your brow, and then after that I'm going to take a small art liner brush, some black eyeshadow, and I'm going to line as close to the lashes as possible. I'm going to bring that all the way down into the inner corner. You can use an art brush, a nail art brush, or a makeup brush, whatever you prefer. With whatever's left on the brush, I'm just going to look straight ahead into the mirror and then run that colour through the lashes just to darken them, but without it being too apparent. For the bottom of the inner corner, I'm going to be using a small art brush and then a very pale green eyeshadow and just running that into the lashes on both eyes. Now on the upper lid, on the inner corner, I'm going to be taking this really beautiful highlighter that I have and applying that on the inner corner. But then I'm also going to use that colour on the very tops of my cheekbones and then right down the centre of my nose as well, after I've blended it into that green shade that I just used. Next I'm going to be adding some freckles, and if you're trying to add some realistic fake freckles, you're going to have to use two different shades. You're going to have to use a light brown and a darker brown, because no freckle is going to be exactly the same colour. You're going to get slight variations. So start off by doing some light brown and then adding some darker brown freckles, but try and keep those more centred in the patches that you've already drawn. Then moving on to eyeliner, I'm going to take an eyeliner that's got a really thin edge. You could also use a small art brush and some black eyeshadow if that's what you have to hand. And I'm going to draw these small little leaves on the very corners of my eye. The main thing to do is when you're trying to draw these leaves is try and get one which leads out from the top liner on your upper lid. And that's going to curl around and have this lovely little swirl at the end of it. And then add some smaller leaves on the outer lower corner. On the inner corner, I'm going to do a sharp point and then connect that into the lashes. The easiest way to do that and making the bottom lash thicker with liquid liner without having to actually line through the whole thing is to just do these little dots in between each of the hairs, and it's going to make the lashes look thicker without having to drag that colour all the way through them. And then on the gold leaves, well, not on the gold leaves, on the leaves I'm going to add a little bit of gold in the middle. I'm going to be using an art brush for this as well. the upper lid we're going to be doing something slightly different, and I'm going to take some eyelash glue and I'm going to dab that on the middle of my eyelid, and then after that I'm going to be taking some small flecks of gold foil, putting them on the brush and then dabbing that over. Now this is going to mess up your eyeliner a little bit at first, but don't worry about that. At first just put that gold foil all over the lid. Well, not all over, just in the centre, otherwise it's going to cover up all the work we've already done. And then for the eyeliner, just go back with that eyeliner brush and brush away the gold foil, or reline it, whichever one. After that I applied some false lashes. I also put a few rhinestones on the very corners of these lashes, and then you want to line the lower waterline. You're probably going to pull some pretty awesome faces while you're doing this. And then to finish off, we're going to start off with an OCC lip tar. I'm going to be using quite a pinky shade. I'm going to start off on the centre of the lips and then blend that colour outwards. And once you've done that, you're going to be taking more of a nude lip liner and you're going to outline the shape of your lips and blend that into the colour that you've already applied. Down the centre of the lips, I'm going to be using a dark purpley burgundy colour, and then after that I'm going to be blending it out. You want to try and get this mainly down the centre of the lips, but then also on the very outer corner, and try and blend that up into the colours that you've already applied. I'm going to be using a lip art brush just to make sure that all these colours are blended together before I finish. And finally, to finish the look, I'm going to be using a masquerade mask. You could use a green one, or you could use an orange autumny one. I've got tutorials for both of these on my second channel, but other than that, you're done.